Hello and welcome to the Rest Hold Wrestling channel with myself, Kieran, and of course Gareth here.
That's me.
That is Gareth. Today we're going to be talking about AEW's upcoming pay-per-view this Saturday, All Out.
They're going all out. We're going to go all out. We're staying up. And yeah, first things first. I think it just looks like a really good show. We'll get into the details, but I'm just really excited. That's my first feeling about it.
It's by no means perfect. I definitely think there's some things to raise awareness
Yeah,
to in regards to could this have been better? But we'll get to
yeah,
them as they come. First of all, the pre-show match, which has received a little bit of criticism online.
yeah,
And I can understand, however, I personally would apply more of a larger frame of mind around the whole issue. So
yeah,
this match is Britt Baker with, assuming Rebel, I believe her name is,
yeah,
with against Big Swole.
yeah. In
Now
a
we've
tooth and
had
nail match,
tooth and nail
I'm
match.
not, which I'm not
Supposedly,
sure what
go
that
on.
is.
Yeah, like supposedly it's in like Britt Baker's place of work or something. It'll be like a dentist set of sorts. I assume.
Oh,
I don't know. Yeah, it's they were
amazing.
they weren't quite clear on it. But I think this is where my point comes in regards to criticism. So where those criticism coming in is this is a feud that has had a fairly lengthy amount of time to get to this
Yeah,
match, and we knew this match was gonna happen.
yeah,
Britt Baker unfortunately got injured. She, a couple of weeks later, announced that she would be available for All Out. Essentially, she'd be able to wrestle for All Out. But since
yeah,
then, we haven't really seen her be all that physical. This last AEW was the most we've ever seen her be physical, and essentially it was just her beating up on Big Swole. And
yeah,
considering the style of match that we have ahead of us, this tooth and nail, kind of, it's not very well explained to us. I think, and especially with it being in the pre-show, I think maybe Britt Baker isn't in her fullest condition. She's not feeling 100%. And
yeah,
essentially, and I think perhaps it would be too much of a risk for her health and for the on the company's behalf for her to wrestle
mm,
a bog
yeah,
standard wrestling match, but especially on the main show as well. Like, it just, I don't know if they wanted that particular part. I remember you saying as well on, I can't remember. I think it was live when we were talking about it and how we're not too sure if it's going to be pre-recorded.
yeah,
So this could be something because maybe they didn't want to mix in live with pre-recorded because it might, affect the flow of the show. There's a
yeah.
variety of things it could be. So I think to personally, I want to hear your thoughts on this, but like personally, I think it's a bit jumping to the gun for me criticizing this. I am disappointed that it is on the pre-show,
Yeah.
but I think there's more to play, essentially.
Yeah. I think generally people can maybe get a little bit too worked up about the pre-show or the buy-in as it is in AEW. Like, it is considered a bit more important in AEW than like the pre-show on WWE, where it's literally just something to keep you mildly entertained as they do their terrible little boring whatever it is analysis, I guess, even though, it's basically their attempt to make it seem a bit more real. But those matches never really matter. Whereas on AEW, we've had ones which have had championship implications on the pre-show. We've had the first ever match was obviously on the pre-show, and they always hark back to that, which was Kip Sabian, who got the first ever win. I can't remember who he faced, but it isn't quite on the pay-per-view, and I get that there's that, but it's not quite as bad as it is in WWE, I don't think. At least from the buy-ins that they've done in the past, they always seem like, Britt Baker versus B Priestley was on the buy-in, and if anything, it just means that because the show itself, it needs to run a certain amount of time. Maybe if there's like a match where they want to give it a bit more time or do something a bit more different or whatever, they'll throw it on the buy-in so that it doesn't disrupt the flow of the show itself, and also maybe because they want to give it a bit more time. Whereas if it was on the actual show, matches like John Moxley versus MJF, Kenny Omega, and Hangman Page versus FTR, the bigger matches are more important. the women's championship match as well. Obviously, hopefully that gets a good amount of time.
Yeah.
Um, it is this only this match announced for the buy-in, and obviously it's an hour long thing, and obviously they have little promos and stuff as well. But I was wondering if they were going to put something else on there. I don't quite know what that is. Like, probably the best thing to do would be Jurassic Express versus the Young Bucks, but then the Young Bucks are one of your biggest tag teams. Would you not have them on the main show?
Nah.
Then
I could see them doing like an impromptu
yeah,
sort of match or maybe a brawl of sorts if that were to be the case. I'm not too sure if we will have another match within the pre-show, if I'm honest.
they
Um,
in the past they've put the Casino Battle Royal on the pre-show, but that's not been announced this time. So I don't know uh, whether that's going to be later in the show or if it's going to be on the buy-in as well.
yeah,
But they haven't announced it for that. They have had for the first Double or Nothing, it was the Casino Battle Royale and then the Kip Sabian match, whoever he faced. So they did have a singles match and that, so they could be doing that. But either way, it's hard to. This is definitely, as much as it's been built for a while, it's definitely the least big name, I guess, or whatever match there. I think a lot of people are disappointed mainly because it's the women's division. Obviously, that hasn't had a whole lot of shine. And if you did have two women's matches on the actual show, it would be a bit more of a statement. But it is what it is. I think ultimately we'll just have to enjoy the match anyway. And as far as the match goes itself, like we said, this has been built for a good while, and it's kind of like I kind of hope it is a bit pre-shot or in that kind of cinematic wrestling match style, because I feel like the whole build-up has kind of been that. It's been these little sketches and little promos on the side. Britt Baker in her cart, all
very
these types
very
of
little
things.
has involved a wrestling ring, hasn't it?
Yeah, so it would kind of make sense for it to be like one of those kind of more cinematic matches. So that would be good if it was. If it was just a straight match as well, where I don't know how they'll incorporate teeth and nails, but if they did and did something like that, that'd be cool as well. Because obviously we haven't seen Britt Baker and we haven't seen much of Big Swole actually in the ring for a good while now. So yeah, but it should be an interesting one for sure.
I think on our point before we move on as well, I think that will work into Big Swole's strengths as well because
Yeah,
as we've seen on multiple occasions while she's been in the crowd, she's been on it verbally, vocally, what have you, the insults, the sort of attitude that she has. I think with a cinematic match where you can clearly hear what they're communicating to one another, that'll suit her strengths as well.
yeah,
And I think, well, we'll have to see how the match plays out. If this is a bog standard match and they've done something different with it, with the tooth and nail sort of stipulation that they put ahead, then I'd be kind of disappointed. But I'm very sure it's going to be of a cinematic to protect Britt Baker,
yeah,
and rightly so if that's the case. But
yeah,
let's move on then, and
yeah,
I'm going to go up in sort of a rough order as to where we think things will end up. I can I think you made a good point in regards to the 21-man Casino Battle Royale, because if there was
yeah,
going to be another pre-show match, that's probably it for me
yeah,
personally, more so
yeah,
than Jurassic Express and the Young Bucks, because I think yes, it's the Young Bucks and of course the presence that they have within the show. It's AEW,
mm,
you want them on the show, but also I think
yeah,
with the Young Bucks there is a larger story at play in regards to their characters as a whole. Maybe not a
yeah,
feud as such, but the way in which their attitudes are changing and how they have over time. And
yeah,
that against Jurassic Express is going to be a big deal. And it's going to be a fantastic match as well. Not to say
yeah,
the Casino Battle Royale isn't, but Battle Royals tend to be in that vein of pre-show, like as you said.
yeah,
So
yeah,
let's talk
yeah,
about that Casino Battle Royale then. Um, like in terms of participants that I've got here, we've got the likes of Darby Allen, we've got Lance, we've got the FTW guys, we've got Eddie Kingston's bunch, so that's Butcher and Blade, that's
yeah,
the Lucha Brothers, Sean Spears, the Guns, so that's Billy Gunn, Austin Gunn, okay, what is it? Inner Circle, we've got Best Friends, and there's also a couple of places that haven't been filled. So
yeah,
as you alluded to before we started recording, there might be a couple of surprises on the way. There's been nothing suggested. There's been no rumors, but they
Yeah,
purposely left some spots open. So who knows?
yeah, yeah. I don't like you said. There's not really been much speculation about who could be in that match, so it's hard to really speculate if there's going to be a new signing or anything like that. They definitely don't need it, so
No,
they got a
I don't
really
think they
full
need it.
roster. And I think if you're going to debut someone, it's the kind of thing where they would come in as the Joker and then they might go on and win it if they're a big enough name. And I think it's definitely a kind of thing where it's looking like Lance Archer's going to win this match and he'll be the TV feud for John Moxley leading over to the next pay per view before we get to that. And that's another reason why this could easily go on the pre show because the title match, which will be as a result of this, won't be on a pay per view anyway. It'll be on TV. This person will become the immediate number one contender. So there's that as well. Like it has high stakes in terms of it being a world championship match, but it's not going to build to the biggest story or anything. So that's another reason why it could be on the pre-show. But yeah, I can't look past Lance Archer winning this match. Brian Cage has already had a title shot. Pentagon and Phoenix, as much as I'd love to see them against Moxley or MGF if he could win, um, I don't think that's going to happen. I'd love to see Eddie Kingston manipulate his group and use them to win. And I would love to see him versus Moxley. I think that'd be a great match. But then at the same time, it just feels like Lance Archer. Like it feels like they've been putting him on Dynamite, on Dark, sorry, to bit stack up those wins. Not really had him do a whole lot, so that when it came to an opportunity like this, he can win it, and then he's got the record to be like, yeah, he is a valid number one contender. You could have Darby Allin, but they've already done that match against Moxley so many times that I don't see them doing it again. Did it for the title as well recently, so it just doesn't make sense.
I
And everyone
felt
else kind of is mixed up in, or they're either Billy Gunn or Austin Gunn. They're just not going to win it, are they? Or they're mixed up in their own little feuds. So, and they're just not. They're either in a tag team or the Sean Spears, you know. But I don't think he's going to win. But yeah, I can't look past Lance Archer personally.
Yeah, I can understand your reasoning. Personally, I think I disagree though. In regards to Lance Archer, I get that he's probably had the most presence and he's probably one of the more believable stars to go up against Moxley, given his record and a variety of other factors. But I think, at least in my opinion, Lance Archer's already lost with the TNT Championship, and although I'm more than happy to see people lose and have that be part of a story, I'm not too sure if having him lose two title shots or two title opportunities in a row in
Yeah,
regards to him having those opportunities is good for him personally.
yeah,
I think the one is
yeah.
fine. I think two, I think you're starting to reach some dangerous territory. Not that it's the end of the world. You can absolutely book him, especially with Jake Roberts by his side. You can absolutely book him back into those positions. I just don't. I think you're not going to help yourself in the future. I personally, I would disagree and say I think Eddie Kingston's probably a really, really unique and great shout.
That's what I'd like to happen. Eddie Kingston
Yeah,
is
because
that would be the one I'd want.
I think people, although people wouldn't believe Eddie Kingston could do it, because I don't think anyone, because considering the guy was borderline considering retirement amongst other things, and he's
Yeah,
just joined, it makes very little sense to have him, and plus his star presence, at least in the grander scheme of wrestling, to pull in new audiences, new viewers. That's not going
yeah,
to be the case. It's always going to be on the shoulders of someone like a Moxley, like a Jericho.
yeah.
However, he can absolutely take a loss, but the promo games are going to be absolutely
Oh yeah,
phenomenal week in, week out. You've got the Butcher, the Blade, Pentagon, and Ray Phoenix against John Moxley here. You know, they can beat him down. You
yeah,
can see John Moxley on the back foot. You know, a
yeah,
variety of other things. I think you can highlight John Moxley in a high, like, you can put him in a different position. You know,
yeah,
very much similar to what Jericho had on him. But
yeah,
instead of the entertainment value of Jericho and his, you know, champion and all these variety of things, you got Eddie Kingston and like the
yeah,
sort of grassroots wrestling promos that he does, the vicious nature of it, and we can't forget that John Moxley was particularly really excited with Eddie Kingston's
yeah,
arrival, and I
yeah.
think he'd be rooting for that as well. I'm sure Eddie Kingston would be too. So and I think, and I said this before to you, I really want an unsanctioned match again. I haven't seen one in a long while. And I
Yeah,
think
I
something,
don't know if you could do an unsanctioned match for the title
but
because
like,
I mean you could, but it would kind of make logically not much sense. But yeah,
no, but like, okay, maybe I'm being silly there then, but I would like to see John, because the whole thing with John Moxley is that hardcore esque thing, isn't it? Right?
yeah,
Not that we want to see that in day and out. We don't. But Eddie Kingston's the perfect guy to. He's a guy that can take a loss, given the group that he's got. That can be great for John Moxley as well. He's got a different challenge ahead of him, maybe one that's familiar to us in regards to him facing the inner circle previously, but
yeah,
still, nonetheless, he's on the back foot because if anything, with his MJF feud, as much as MJF has been fantastic with the promos and John Moxley has been great with the promos, we
yeah,
haven't seen much in terms of dynamic, in terms of their position and the way they're feeling and the way that they're like. Regards what we just saw with AEW and John Moxley bloodied up and beaten down was probably one of the first times we've seen John Moxley on the back foot with MJF. You
yeah,
know, otherwise
yeah,
John Moxley's always had the upper hand with MJF because there was page 17 or something like that.
yeah. He was
Uh,
always getting one up, wasn't he?
yeah. So I just think that would work. Personally, I think that would work really well. Yeah.
I completely agree. Like that is Eddie Kingston is the one that I want. I think Lance Archer's the one. That's
You
like my
think?
prediction.
Yeah, I
But
got you. Yeah.
Yeah, Eddie Kingston is definitely the one I want. I was gonna tweet this out a couple of days ago, but I didn't because I was just like it was just too messed up in my head. But I've had a bit of time to think about it. That wink from Eddie Kingston, you kind of speculate what was that about and stuff. It could just be him like being like, look, I've managed to get these boys on my side and I'm going to kind of manipulate them.
Yeah.
Also, I love in this match because everyone arrives in fives. If Eddie Kingston walks down with all his boys as the final five to come out, clear the ring, and then it's Lance Archer who comes down. They have been teasing the whole Lance Archer versus Brian Cage thing as well, and that's maybe the only doubt in my mind when it comes to Lance is that they might be building to a TV feud between Lance Archer and Brian Cage, whilst Eddie Kingston maybe goes for a title shot. I would love that. Um, but if Lance Archer was then the Joker to come down and it's him versus the five, comes down to maybe I don't know Eddie Kingston and Phoenix versus Lance Archer. Archer goes to eliminate Ray Phoenix, and Eddie Kingston does a sneaky one from behind, and then he does another wink and stuff. I would be marking out for that. That'd be so
Yeah.
good. So yeah, I completely agree. And Eddie Kingston is the kind of outside shot which I hope, and like you say, the Moxley and versus Kingston promos would be amazing. Um,
Oh,
Lance
everything.
Archer is kind of a guaranteed brilliant match for Moxley, but it is something that we as fans have seen in New Japan as well, whereas
Yeah.
Kingston we haven't. So yeah, Kingston's definitely the one I'm rooting for, but I can't look past Lance Archer. It just
But
feels like that's what they're doing to me. But
but
I hope
oh,
I am
yeah.
wrong.
No, yeah, but like also, before we move on as well, I also think these casino battle royals are a great way to get people into title shot opportunities without having the records, because of course the records,
Yeah.
although they're not perfect, they do
Mm.
have their role in regards to people getting title opportunities. Number two contender, number one contender, FTR, blah 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 blah. We see
Yeah.
it time and time again. Whereas with the Casino Battle Royal, anyone, Austin Gunn could win this. And have
Yeah.
a title match. You know,
And I hope he does.
no, but like it's just I think personally, I think it's a bit of a wasted opportunity when you've got something like this Casino Battle Royal where you can use anyone, and then you go to use a guy who's
Who's
already in a
got the
position
record?
who
Yeah.
you can justify his position to have a title in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's more worth your time having someone like Eddie Kingston, whose record, it would take ages for his record to justify anything coming out of
Yeah.
him having a title shot. And then with
Yeah.
Lance Archer, he can just continue to have a feud with the likes of Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, build up on that record, make a
Yeah.
bigger case for it, let that sink into his character, and then going forward, maybe after the Eddie Kingston situation, maybe we then have that. Because I
Yeah.
think, although me and you, I think I can speak for you in this, and we're not eager, we don't want things to be rushed, but we are looking forward to the point where we hope to see an Omega title run. We hope we see
Yeah.
Omega as the guy in his heel fashion, in his, whether it's a cleaner or wherever they decide to go with, we see him
Yeah.
as the person to take over from Moxley as champion eventually. It's something that they've teased,
Yeah.
not the title, but the cleaner. And if it's the freaking cleaner, it's gonna blow internet
Yeah.
Twitter. It's gonna blow them out the water, and it's gonna be incredible. And there's been uh, speculation in that that's the way they see AEW going forward. It was going to be Jericho, it was going to be Moxley, and then it was going to be Omega. That was
Yeah.
what was reported, if I remember, a couple of weeks back in their
Yeah.
vision for the top. So I think you've got still got a big story with Omega and Hangman Page to
Yeah.
ease in with, so it's probably going to be longer than we expect.
I think
For
another
Go on.
sorry.
No, go on.
Another point is that people have been making online is that Lance Archer's kind of been more and more um, being put up against heel, so Brian Cage's faction and stuff like that,
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
coming to blows with Eddie Kingston. There's people who've been speculating that they might be going down like a just kind of a badass monster face-ish kind of like. It's hard to really say.
I
It's
think
hard to
it's
look at Lance Archer and like root for him
It's very
from
much
a
like a
like
Braun
kayfabe
Strowman
point of view.
thing, though. I think it's like a Braun Strowman thing where, like,
Yeah.
although his actions aren't exactly baby faces in the things that he's inflicting upon people, I think it's the moment. So, like with Braun Strowman, it was
Yeah.
tipping over a truck, and all this
Yeah.
variety of ridiculous stunts that were happening. With Lance Archer, it's throwing a guy through a roof. You know, it's that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, I didn't think of that actually. I completely forgot.
But
Yeah,
yeah, he could be a great first challenge for Kenny Omega as someone like again probably a TV defense because he's another name of like a someone who necessarily would you could build him into that position for sure. But for a pay-per-view defense, I don't know. But definitely a TV defense that could be a very interesting thing. And all he has to be, even he doesn't even need to be like a full-on face, like you said, he can just be entertaining enough that like we'll like him. And if Kenny Omega's a good enough heel, it could be the perfect way to get him over as a heel rather than putting him up against like Jungle Boy or something, which again could be absolutely brilliant. It would be a great match, first of all, but secondly, like Jungle Boy is just the most likable person in the world.
hmm.
You could easily get Omega over as a mega heel that way, but he could just be a bigger dickhead than Lance Archer, and that could be the story as well. We've spoken about this one for a long
Yeah, yeah,
time
yeah, yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry,
But
all right,
like
can we move on?
the rest of the matches now we're going to sort of breeze past because there
Yeah,
hasn't been a whole lot heading into this. So first of which, as previously mentioned, Jurassic Express are taking on the Young Bucks. Young Bucks, they've missed out on opportunity due to Adam Page, as we fully well know. That program in itself has been brilliant, and the involvements there. Um,
mm.
I've seen a lot of criticism online and being like, I don't like the Young Bucks. They're coming across as arrogant, and I'm just like, like
You're getting worked.
you're getting so worked. It's incredible.
Yeah,
So it shows they've done their job exceptionally well. They've got one of the best good guys, good old baby faces to face against here in Jurassic Express. It's just going to be a
yeah,
great match, and hopefully we see more development in the Young Bucks' attitude. That's all this match, I think, is going to be
yeah,
about, and that's completely fine. That's going to be great.
yeah.
Um,
One thing I would really like in this match is or there's a couple. I'd love to see Jurassic Express get the win because I think they would be assuming FTR win later, which is something which I'm kind of hoping happens because I'd love to see FTR as champion. I think they would be a great first challenge for them as like probably the biggest babyface tag team in the division in terms of just being purely likable. You can't hate Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus is just hilarious. So
hmm,
they're great. But then Young Bucks to kind of just be like dicks after the match, basically. Not necessarily attack them. Also, I'd love to see Kenny Omega at ringside because, first of all, it kind of brings in the thing of why aren't you, focusing on your match for later? You should be
yeah,
backstage with Hangman and stuff. He's out there supporting the Young Bucks instead. But I'm never going to get bored of seeing Kenny Omega just like do those suplexes to Marco Stunt.
hmm,
So, and if there was a moment where it was kind of breaking down at ringside and stuff, and then Kenny just attacks Marco Stunt again, they've done it before in matches, but I'd love it just as a thing on the outside where it's just like Kenny Maker just being an absolute twat.
yeah. It's like at this point, it's got no involvement in the match whatsoever.
He's
It's
just being a
it's
dick.
completely unwarranted. Yeah, it would be
I
great to be
think
fair.
it would just be funny to see. It's not necessarily the thing that needs to happen for the story. It wouldn't harm the story at all. If anything, it would enhance it slightly. But It would also just make me laugh, and I just want to see it.
Yeah. Talking of things I'm looking forward to seeing, the Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara match as well. That's gonna be a broken rules, last man standing, if I remember. With
Yeah,
that's with
basically a last man
this
standing match.
with the stipulation that if Hardy loses, he must leave AEW, which tells me the Hardy's winning.
Well, it's either that or that he's retiring and will go into a backstage role, which is something about a year ago he was talking about. And it was the main reason I was excited for Matt Hardy to join AEW, because I was like, this is a guy who clearly has so many character and story ideas and stuff. If you're starting a new company, you want people like that. So if you're taking guys off the indies, you want guys like Matt Hardy and Dustin Rhodes. They're the perfect guys to come in and be like to these younger guys who maybe don't have as much of a who aren't necessarily so used to telling stories or being TV characters and stuff
Mm.
like that. They more used to just putting on banging matches, which is great. They can come in with that, but you need guys like Matt Hardy backstage to kind of help with that. And Matt's done pretty much every character under the sun. He's been like the craziest, like whatever broken Matt Hardy was. I don't even know how to explain it. He's just been like nice
Like,
guy Matt. He's
like
been the dickhead
he's
brother.
been a
Um,
daredevil. You know,
Big money Matt as well.
yeah, a
He's
lot
done
of it.
so many different things. He's similar to Jericho as well. He's another great one to have backstage. So could see Hardy retire here. It would be a little bit disappointing. But also, it kind of feels like Sammy Guevara is the one who needs the win more than Matt Hardy here. So it's a bit like, I don't know. I hate last man standing matches as well. So I'm a little bit sour on this because I kind of just, I want to see Sammy Guevara win. Don't necessarily want to see Matt Hardy retire, even though I don't love his matches yet. Just his character work entertains me so much that I would want to see him still on screen.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, the last man standing, it's just not a stipulation I like. I have all faith that they could be able to do it in a good way. As AEW have taken stipulations that I'm not the biggest fan of before, and or where I had doubts about them before, and done them really well.
hmm
So we'll have to wait and see whether like it's just one of those typical, oh, I'm going to do a 10 count, even though you've taken like a fucking bulldog or something. It's just a really average move. Hopefully the ref in this isn't annoying and stupid. Hopefully the guys aren't just trying to constantly slow the match down. Um, but yeah, it's one I have my worries about, but ultimately it's going to be entertaining for sure.
yeah, definitely. And then we can move on then to the Dark Order taking on basically Cody's mates in Matt Cardona, Scorpio Sky, and the Natural Nightmares, Dustin Rhodes, QT Marshall. This is a match that I'm not sour on, but I'm not exactly hyped for either.
Yeah,
Brody Lee has been phenomenal. Dark Order has been great over the last
yeah,
month or so in regards to actually having a bit of character to them. Um, and obviously the segment with Brody Lee beat down on Cody, beating down all his mates and his wife. It was great. We haven't
yeah,
seen Cody since, which I think is great as well.
mm,
We all heard that he was taking time off anyway, but that's
yeah,
all good as well because as amazing as Cody has been to the product as a whole, it's
yeah,
just it's time for other guys to have this spot, and but
yeah,
the company will need Cody eventually again, no doubt about it. But it's just kind of nice to have that little change of shift. We get Mark
yeah,
Cardona here, you get Scorpio Sky. You can't really complain too much about that, in my opinion.
yeah,
The one complaint, at the end of the day, would have liked a TNT Championship match with Brody Lee. I think
yeah,
I speak for a lot of people there. But you never know. Colt Cabana's involved here. That's kind of been on the back burner. His story there. I'm not too sure
yeah.
if they might reinvigorate that in a way, but we'll just have to wait and see in that regard. But it
I
look,
I think
go on.
in terms of like trying to predict a match, I'd love to see Scorpio Sky pin Matt Cardona. That's his fucking teammate. um, I'd love to see Scorpio Sky pin Colt Cabana and then Dark Order kind of just kick him out. Because then it's like you kind of built this thing, but then as soon as he lost, they were trying to build him up. As soon as he lost, then they just like, yeah, get out of here.
Mm,
Because that would kind of play into the story. And also, I'd love to see Scorpio Sky get the pin here in order to justify him getting another TNT Championship shot. He had one against Cody recently. I don't know. Maybe that's too soon in terms of what he's had. You could do it with Matt Cardona, then just have Brody Lee destroy Matt Cardona on TV and continue to look like a badass. Something like that. Could even do it with Dustin. He could do it with QT Marshall, but um, but yeah, I'd love to see like Cody's mates basically get the win in a way where they pin Colt Cabana and then Brody just like blames Colt Cabana for the loss, but then that can build to a TNT Championship match. It is a disappointment that there's not a TNT Championship match on the card. I think even if it was just something where it was like you could have had Brody do a squash similar to the Cody match, and then he looks even more like a badass. Someone like Matt Cardona would have been perfect to take that fall because he's a big enough name to justify being in the match, even though people complain about it beforehand. As long as you did it right on the show, people wouldn't really be fair to have that complaint. But maybe there's a grander story at play here that we're not aware of. We have to wait and see until it plays out, really.
Yeah, I think this match did come out of thin air a little bit. Not that obviously they had the segment to end the AEW 2 weeks back
Hmm.
to warrant a match like this. However, like still, they could have went in a direction with Brody Lee, with his title, because at the end of the day, he's just won the title.
Yeah,
They could have went in many directions, but decided to go in here. So as we've said before with AEW, I kind of have faith that they might do something different, maybe something we're not anticipating here. And I think
yeah,
that would certainly add more intrigue for everyone else here, whether it is Colt Cabana, whether it is Scorpio Sky, or whether it's Matt Cardona. You
yeah,
know, but there's not much in that, so I'll move on regardless.
yeah.
And we move on to Hikaru Shida taking on Thunder Rosa for obviously the AEW Women's World Championship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's not really a whole lot to say about this apart from the fact that it should be an amazing match. I hope they give it a bunch of time. Um, we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens with Thunder Rosa in terms of contract. I know it's her contract with NWA is up soonish, and I know there's somewhat of a relationship between AEW and NWA now apparently. So I don't know where it runs. I don't think Thunder Rosa is going to win this, but if the relationship is further on than we think, it would be a great way to have quite a big shock on the card. Even though I think Hikaru Shida could keep going, but the state of their women's division, it might be good to have a new champion in that you could have fresh matchups at least. But at the same time, I think if Britt Baker wins against Big Swole in that match, and then she's back, I think Britt Baker's always also the perfect person to build towards taking that title off Hikaru Shida, and maybe at the next pay-per-view. So Shida would have had a good run at that point, and Baker would feel like the right person. She'd be fully fit by that point, so that's all good. So yeah, I don't think it, but there's always that chance we don't know the relationship behind the scenes. AEW are very good at keeping things quiet. So there's just a little bit of me that thinks maybe, but ultimately I think Hikaru Shida will retain.
yeah. I personally, I think there's no question Shida's going to retain. It's not even a consideration Thunder Rosa is going to win. However,
I'm trying to drum it up. All right.
no, no, there's no chance in my book. But what I will say is this hasn't got a whole lot of building to it in regards to story or anything like that. This is just an occasion between two promotions, two female representatives, championship holders within two promotions, going with head to head. And especially with the pandemic situation, how NWA, as far as I'm aware, they're not operating as usual at the moment. They haven't got
Yeah.
any shows planned, so this is great for them in having some presence still whilst their operations have taken a bit of a downer. So I just think give these two women just an immense amount, not immense amount of time. Don't give them 60-minute Iron Man match. Just
We'll
give
see how
them
they go.
no, give them a good 15 to 20 minutes. They can
Yeah.
absolutely knock it out the park. Seeing Thunder Rosa give me all the confidence in the world that her and Shida can put on an absolute clinic here. So,
Yeah.
and that's all I want to see. I can't see
Could be
anything.
match of the night.
Yeah, I can't see any. Although me and you, we speak for each other. I think in that we are more around the story element of things. But like, I
Mm.
think sometimes in situations like this where they've obviously come out with this match because they didn't feel there were any other options that they were
Yeah.
confident with on All Out.
Yeah.
I think all we can really expect from this is a great match, and so that's all I will ever expect. It's just like give
Yeah.
us a great match, and I am happy in that regard. you know. And
Yeah,
that's it.
completely
That's it.
agree.
Um, I Let's talk about Chris Jericho Orange Cassidy then.
Yeah,
Now it's kind of a weird one this in regards to like I don't think it's necessarily been bad. I just don't necessarily think it's been phenomenal either. Um,
yeah,
I think it's largely been entertaining, decent. Not Chris Jericho's best work, probably Cassidy's best work, but I think when someone is somewhat overexposed in a way, sort of that I can't really explain it, but essentially, uh, we've seen Orange Cassidy do fairly similar things
mm,
recently. That's not to say it's been bad because it's just the occasion's kind of worn off because I've
yeah,
seen it so many times now. The feeling of Orange Cassidy just not caring, but then eventually caring, but then not caring, but then
yeah,
then he does care. Um, so I personally prefer Orange Cassidy in a role on the side,
yeah,
where he pops out in the toilets out of nowhere during a segment that
yeah,
had no involvement with him. I personally prefer him in just ridiculous segments because I
yeah,
think you're playing to his strengths then. Whereas in a feud like this, it's great that he's got in a feud with a guy like Jericho on a
yeah,
position like this. Undoubtedly, it's fantastic.
mm,
However, like I after this match, which I'm sure will be a lot of fun, it just sounds like fun. It doesn't sound like anything like a clinic or anything like that, nor would I ever expect it to be. It's if it's as long as it's fun and then we can move on to somewhere else because we have seen this for a while now.
yeah,
I'm happy.
yeah. I completely agree. Like, it's not a thing that I'm most invested in, but it's going to be a fun little thing on the night. Um, it's quite a hard one to predict, I think, because naturally you think Jericho will win with pinfall submission, but at the same time, I could easily see them because it's not a pinfall, it's not really a real victory, but it's kind of like the moment thing. Orange Cassidy throwing Jericho into a tank of mimosa would be like a moment that I could see them kind of building towards. That does kind of help Orange Cassidy, but also doesn't really hurt Jericho too much. He hasn't been pinned again. He did get there was that kind of roll up ish pin against Jericho from Orange Cassidy in the second match that they had. Um, but I think like they could do that, so it's a hard one to predict necessarily. But in terms of the story and everything that's been built around it, I agree. Like I like Orange Cassidy popping up in the odd match here and there. When he had his match with Pac, I was like, this is great because it's just kind of something that naturally came about. It just feels like I don't know, having a trilogy of matches with Orange Cassidy, someone who like I wouldn't think would care enough to bother having a trilogy. But it is what it is. It's not bad by any means. It's just not the thing I'm most into. But I don't think it's one of those things that it's supposed to be. It's just supposed to be something that's quite funny on it'll break up the show. So that's good.
Yeah, like, and also, before heading into another match, something that I think this card is going to do really well for is that it's got a whole lot of variety. It's got a
Yeah,
crap ton of variety. So as we've talked about before, I've mentioned like this is going to be a fun match, but then in other matches, it's like this is going to be a clinic. This is going to
yeah,
be, you've got matches like the Last Man Standing. It's going to be a bit more serious, a bit more intense.
mm,
You've got a whole lot of variety going on. You've got character work with the Young Bucks, which I think you're going to see. Um,
yeah,
so I think we're going to get a whole lot of variety here as well, which
mm,
I'm absolutely a fan of. So something like a Mimosa Mayhem match, although in the grand scheme of things, I'm not exactly all that interested in, but in the
mm,
context of having a serious World Championship match with Moxley and MJF, which we'll get into later, a serious
yeah,
World Tag Team Championship with FTR, Kenny Omega, you've got a somewhat of a serious Casino Battle Royale there,
yeah,
and then of course you've got that Matt Hardy Guevara thing. It's and then mixing all those other fun orientated matches around them, I think will make
yeah,
for a thoroughly entertaining card. So I think they've done well in that regard as well.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's a good point to make.
um, then we've got Kenny Omega, Adam Page taking on FTR.
Well, it's again. I think there's going to be a wider discussion about this whole story as a whole to be had at some point. But I think we can just kind of sum it up and just say it's been absolutely incredible what they've done and the way that they've mixed FTR into this as well. Obviously, this has been going on for longer than FTR are in the company. But the way they've mixed them in, used them to manipulate Hangman Page to kind of get them what they want and all that. It's been really really good. I loved the promo segment between them on this past week. I think it just showed everyone's role in this match so well. You've got Kenny Omega who blatantly does not trust Adam Page, but is there still trying to manipulate him. You've got FTR who are they just like at this point they're just like you're a dick, Adam. Like they've done what they've used Adam for what they need to do now. They've got their title match, so they don't care. And then you've got Adam Page kind of left in the middle, just kind of broken. And that final shot where Hangman went to offer Kenny the title and Kenny was out of the ring, he wasn't going to back up Adam Page if FTR attacked him. Like he wasn't getting involved in that, even though like before Adam came out, he was giving it the big one, like, "Oh, come on," almost as if he knows he's got Hangman Page in his back pocket, like, or at least he thinks he does. It's so good, and it was just such a nice way to kind of build to this match. They absolutely nailed everyone's role in this match. Tully just looking on from the side as well, just looking like a horrible, horrible man. Obviously, I'm sure he's nice behind the scenes, but yeah, the way he just stares and looks at things, he can just kill you with a glance. So it's just amazing. I can't wait for this. I'm so excited.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on the same page as you entirely.
The
As much
same
as it,
Adam Page.
as much as it's, as much as it makes for terrible viewership. Just seeing people agree with one another. It's um, Kenny Omega, Adam Page, the whole Young Bucks, the Elite story. You know, this goes back Stadium Stampede, further even
Mm.
further down to the boat
Yeah,
episode of AEW. This just goes back far and wide, and each and every week we've seen subtle things time and time again that eventually just got us to this moment. And I really genuinely hope now that we see a pivotal point in this story.
yeah,
Personally, I think it's time. I understand the crowd thing, I get it, but there is some crowd there that can
yeah,
surely help. And of course, you've got I can't think of the term, but like a fixed crowd around of talent. You know, whether
yeah,
it'll be QT's development talent or bloody Luther.
yeah,
You know, yeah, around the side. Just make a huge momentous occasion out of it, and I'm sure it'll be fine wherever
yeah,
they decide to go, because that's another beauty thing about this. They can go in any direction they want here, because it kind of tilted things on its head a little for me in regards to FTR absolutely looking as if they're manipulating Adam Page, and Adam Page is aware of it,
mm,
or he's struggling to adjust to it.
yeah,
He's just basically struggling regardless. So
yeah,
it's kind of we've been set in our ways over the last few months and thinking like it's going to be Adam Page and FTR and someone else, and then you've got your four. That's great, but
yeah,
it's added a little spanner in the works to make you rethink and reassess as to where they might be going, and they've done that time and time again. So
yeah,
yeah, it's gonna be brilliant.
yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of trying to predict it, I do think this is the time for at least Kenny and Hangman to lose the championships. I've I've been thinking about it a lot, and there's definitely ways you can do it without having them have a turn yet. Even though I do hope we get that as well. But I'd love to see FTR pin Hangman after some kind of something with Kenny. I don't know what they'll do, but some reason why Kenny isn't there to break up the pin, basically. That also kind of implements Kenny, but in a way that he can blame Hangman. They've done so well. I'm sure they can do something along those lines and make it better than the way I've just said it. There's so many ways in which they could do it,
Yeah,
basically. But yeah, I think it's definitely time for new champions now. It's like as amazing as the story has been, and as much as Kenny and Hangman have taken on every tag team, and everyone's kind of got their shot, and they haven't hindered the tag team division. That's kind of it. They faced everyone now, so it's like realistically, where do you go from here? You could go into a proud and powerful thing, but would that really enhance the story? I think what enhances the story most here is that FTR actually it pays off for them, and they've manipulated Hangman successfully, and then they end up pinning him just to rub salt in the wounds for Hangman. Hangman's then 0-2 at All Out as well, which again, I'm hoping next year's All Out is the one where he wins the championship against Omega, and then you've just got a nice little. It's not storytelling, but it's like on its own at least. It plays into a wider story, but it's a nice little thing that Hangman can go into thinking like, I've always lost it all out. 2 years ago, I lost that chance, and that was the start of this journey, properly at least. Yeah, I think that's what's got to happen. If Kenny wants to attack Hangman afterwards, you go for it. Get the Bucks involved. You know, rub salt on the wounds as much as you want. But yeah, I'm hoping that's what's going to happen anyway.
Yep. No, that's completely cool, man. And then we jump to the main event. At least that's what we think. I remember
Yeah,
watching AEW before it started, and I think we were both in agreement that we were kind of hoping that the tag team match, the tag championship match, that would
yeah,
main event.
yeah,
You made a very good point in regards to they call it the AEW World Tag Team Championship. It is
yeah,
in itself a world championship. So
yeah,
by all means, you can absolutely have it. It's been the longest running story throughout the entire company by
yeah,
a big margin as well. I would say it's
yeah,
probably triple the length of Moxley and MJF, maybe even more.
yeah. It's way more than that. Yeah,
Yeah, so like, you know, in my opinion, it's probably the more deserving main event.
yeah,
However, given that they ended last night's AEW with a Moxley MJF segment, I think
mm,
that's probably the feud that they consider to end the All Out show with.
yeah,
So we got Moxley and MJF with, of course, Wardlow in MJF's corner, and I'm not too sure what to expect in terms of match, but I think because although I think MJF is great in ring, but I think I always thought when MJF looked great in ring, he always had a phenomenal opponent on the opposing side.
yeah.
Whereas I think Moxley is a great opponent, but I'm not. Their styles are not too different from one another, and I don't. I'm not. Basically, I'm not too sure if they would enhance one another in ring. Personally,
Oh, I have a thought on that because the way they've been building the match is like Moxley's a brawler, MGF's the wrestler and stuff, and so I feel like the way they've been building that up and stuff. It kind of feels like MGF is going to get the upper hand a lot of the time in ring, and then Moxley's going to take it to the outside brawl. He's going to do all his Moxley kind of stuff. So I think there could be a really interesting story to this match in terms of their
okay,
different outlooks on how wrestling should
that's
happen,
interesting.
especially the way that MGF's been talking makes me think that that's the way they're going to go.
Yeah,
Whether they can pull it off, again, we haven't really seen enough of MGF in ring. We've seen him do a lot of matches, but a lot of them have been against very inexperienced guys, or it's been Jungle Boy, where it's very much an indie kind of style. As great as
yeah,
that was, and as much as they told a brilliant story, it's a very different match to this. We haven't really seen MGF in this situation yet,
yeah,
and it has been building to this as much as they've obviously had this idea for MJF to be in a title match against Moxley around this time for a long, long time. Otherwise, they wouldn't have kept him unbeaten. It's undefeated versus undefeated as well. That's another thing to it. Um, I think ultimately it would be hilarious if Moxley did just use the paradigm shift to win as well. Like, and he just takes the hit in being sued, and he's just like, I don't, I don't care because
So is
that
that
does fit Moxley's
is
character.
yeah? Is that the only stipulation for him then? If he uses it, then he just gets sued. That is it.
Well, they haven't
The,
said he would if he gets disqualified, then he would retain the championship. So that wouldn't be a thing. They haven't said that he'll lose the championship if he uses it. They've only said if you use it, I'll sue your ass. So that kind of suggests that that is the only consequence that will come of it. And if it's a kayfabe suing, nobody would actually get sued.
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
so yeah, like I think it would be a funny way to do it. In alternatively, another theory I've seen thrown around is they've been teasing this split between Wardlow and MJF you could have Wardlow throw in the towel as MGF did on Cody, which is kind of like that would be a really, not only did that happen against with Moxley and Brian Cage as well, so it's also happened in a way that that's a thing that happens against Moxley. It just enhances this idea that he's this unbeatable monster.
Yeah,
But also it's that nice kind of karma for MGF. What goes around comes around. He literally gets the exact same thing
yeah,
happen to him. I think that would be a really good way of ending it as well. You could just have Moxley win and MGF tap out as well. That's probably the least interesting, but ultimately still satisfying way. There's an outside chance that MJF wins this, but I just can't see it happening. I think it's got to be Moxley. And
I think
going
so.
back to that point you made about the main event as well, if Kenny does turn on Hangman in that match earlier in the night, you could have Moxley win, standing tall, and then Kenny comes out in his cleaner gear and just looks at him and then walks back. So you're there, you're teased. They're not saying anything. They're not going, oh, this isn't next, because obviously we've already got a number one contender. But that's Kenny saying, I'm going out on my own now and I'm coming for you. That's another one. I'd just be like, whoa, it's happening if they did that.
Yeah,
So
I think after, chances are we probably won't see much of a turn in regards to Kenny Omega and Page. But like you said, I think definitely a title change is definitely high up there in
yeah,
regards to prediction. I would predict that personally, and I want that to
yeah,
be the case.
yeah,
And also, like, maybe the turn, not because it's not the main event, maybe that it's an additional reason for there not to be a turn. Also, you can differentiate the moments as well. And, you can have the highlight where they lost the titles, and you can have the highlight later on, weeks later or months later, hopefully not months
mm,
later, where the turn eventually happens. So,
yeah.
you know, that's the thing as
It
well.
it would be a really fascinating thing if they had Kenny at ringside for the Young Bucks Jurassic Express match earlier in the night, and then he comes out, has his match with Adam Page. Page gets pinned and all that, and then Kenny at the end, if he were to appear without necessarily turning on Hangman, that is almost the turn. He's like saying, "I'm turning my back on the team now, and I'm going to be a single star." It's like a much more subtle thing, which then you can build to throughout the tension even more with Hangman and Kenny. And you could even have Hangman then be the one who snaps, but it's justified and he remains a face.
Well,
Like
yeah, exactly.
there's so many things they could do. Like he doesn't necessarily need to turn, but they could just give us those little teasers even without doing that. Um,
Yeah, because despite having the call out to Moxley in a way, in regards to Omega, showing up to Moxley to close the event, the
yeah,
repercussions could actually be from Hangman Page rather than Moxley. Like
yeah,
Moxley may just see that as just like a, because it's Moxley. He just probably not laughs it off, but just brings it on, but
yeah,
wherever. Whereas the actual repercussions for that action of Omega's is actually given upon by Page.
yeah,
Because,
exactly.
Page is pissed. We've just lost the titles. You should be focusing on regaining those titles. And now the moment you get a door to leave this entire thing,
Yeah.
you take it without hesitation.
The next possible moment on the same night, you've got especially if he does turn up as the cleaner in that, he's got the gear there. Like it's almost as if we lose, I'm just going to do this to Moxley, and then I like
Oh man, that would be
it would be so good. They don't have to do it,
they don't they don't.
but I'd love it if they
There's
did do
so
something like
much.
that.
So much to do. Well,
Yeah,
that was our preview of All Out, and I hope you've joined us for all of this video. It's been a lengthy one, but I'm sure you can understand there's been a lot to dive into in this card, and as you can tell, various matches on you we are very much looking forward to. Just to
yeah.
let you know, we will be doing a live stream watch along this Saturday
Over on our Twitch.
over on the Twitch. The link will be in the description of this video. So feel free to go there and follow our channel there. And absolutely feel free to follow our Twitter handles if you'd like as well. And we'll let you know as to when we're out live streaming essentially. And
Yeah,
just to let you know as well, we often stream a little bit beforehand, so maybe a half hour, maybe an hour. We'll inform you as to when we are, but also just to talk about the matches, get people's thoughts, get some conversations going. So
Yeah.
that's always a lot of fun as well, seeing what other people are thinking before we head into the matches. That'll be before
Yeah.
the pre-show as well, because we will be doing the watch along for the pre-show as well. Because why
It's
the
always
hell?
nice. Sorry, I was gonna say it's always nice hearing what other people have to say.
Yeah, kind of listening to our own voices gets a bit boring sometimes. Um, but yeah, it's been thoroughly entertaining, Gareth, as always.
Yeah.
And for anyone
Great chat.
watching, we hope to see you Saturday. Or by all means, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed this, or give us a comment. Let us know what you're thinking about these matches. You know,
Yeah.
if we're wrong, if we're idiots, if Kenny Omega is the worst promo,
He's not.
right? Then tell Gareth, because Gareth is on he's on a Kenny Omega rampage on Twitter at the moment. But either
He's the
way,
best.
thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you Saturday. Take care.